You will be tempted to seize control over every aspect of your life, but trusting God's timing brings peace and true victory. I'll say it again. Temptation pushes us to seize control, but trusting God's timing is what will bring you peace and true victory. You're going to want to control things, but what you ultimately should do is be trusting in the Lord's timing for your life and making sure you're taking enough time to even know what that is. All right? So here we go. 1 Samuel 24, 1 through 12. Let's read this story about Saul and David. After Saul had returned from pursuing the Philistines, which they were fighting a battle against the Philistines, most of y'all have heard of them. So at this point, Saul was told that David is in the desert of En-Gedi. And this desert is, by the way, right by the Dead Sea. And then it says, so Saul took 3,000 able young men from all Israel and set out to look for David and his men near the crags of the wild goats. Here's the cool thing, y'all. You can go to the crags of the wild goats today. I have been there. I have walked alongside that Dead Sea and those same caves that are carved out, cut out into the mountainside. It's amazing to walk this pathway with these caves on either side and to imagine this whole scene we're going to read this morning playing out. Amazing thing to think about. So here's what happens next. So he came to the sheep pens along the way, and a cave was there. And Saul went in to relieve himself. He went into the bathroom. There's no porta potties in the ancient Near Middle East, right? There's no, Buc-ee's, right? No Buc-ee's to stop at, run into the bathroom. So he's literally going into a cave to relieve himself in exactly the way you imagine, okay? That's all you need. We won't go any further than that. David and his men were far back in the cave. So Saul's been hunting David and trying to kill him. Oh man, God has delivered Saul right into the hands of David. David's hidden in the back of the cave. Saul is at his most vulnerable at this point in this cave by himself, right? At least he thinks he's by himself, but David and his mighty men are hiding out in the back part of this cave. Seemingly, everything is right in front of David on a silver platter to take this dude out that's been trying to take his life. And for everybody in this room, if we were in similar circumstance, we'd say, look at this. God has delivered my enemy to me, or God has shown me exactly what I'm supposed to do. But if we rush into that, no matter how obvious it might seem, well, we might just go the wrong way. There's a message in this for every one of us. But here's what David's friends say. His men said, "This is the day that the Lord spoke of when he said to you, I will give your enemy into your hands to deal with you as you wish." Now, you won't find that verse in the Bible, but what I expect and what most theologians think is this is probably something that Samuel said to David. Most likely, it was a revelation that's not recorded to him or given to him. You know what I mean? So either way, this is something that his friends, his mighty men, speak over him and say, hey, remember, God said he was going to do this. And look, these are godly men that love God in many ways like David loved God. And sometimes your friends will get it wrong. Sometimes well-meaning friends will get it wrong because they've rushed into something that seemed obvious to them. But again, their sinful nature is just like yours. Right? We are fallible people. So David sees this, and then he's got a decision to make. Like, I can take this guy out and be done with it. But instead, here's what happened. David crept up unnoticed and cut off a corner of Saul's robe. Afterward, David was conscience-stricken for having cut off a corner of his robe. So even this bothered David. He said to his men, he uses this as a teaching moment with his own guys. He says, "The Lord forbid that I should do such a thing to my master, the Lord's anointed, or lay my hand on him, for he is the anointed of the Lord." He knew that at this point, Saul was still king over Israel, no matter how far off track he was. And he knew and God gave it to him in his heart. This is how he needed to handle this. Remember, David is known as a man after God's own heart. And look now, listen, David got lots of things wrong in his life. He was not a perfect man. But he was known for being a man who had a heart that chased after God, that pursued God, that was authentically wanting to know God. You can just read many of the Psalms and you'll see that. But here it says, with these words, David sharply rebuked his men and did not allow them to attack Saul. Sometimes you've got to use opportunities in your life where you step into a mature decision to teach other believers. God might be giving you that as an opportunity for you to model for them Christ-likeness, even when what you want to do is get comeuppance. This is a message from the Lord, I believe, for me, for you. And so Saul left the cave and went his way. So Saul's done going to the bathroom, he leaves. All right. David went out of the cave after Saul has made his way some distance, I assume. David went out of the cave and called out to Saul, "My lord, the king." When Saul looked behind him, David bowed down and he prostrated himself with his face to the ground, and he said to Saul, "Why do you listen when men say, 'David is bent on harming you'? This day you have seen with your own eyes how the Lord delivered you into my hands in the cave." Even in this moment, David is trying to redeem the relationship. He's trying to do the godly thing with the guy that is trying to murder him. Like, he's trying to extend grace to him. And oftentimes God gives us opportunities to do that. Now, we can't make people accept them. We can't make people accept that grace, and ultimately Saul didn't. But I just want you to see the godliness in the nature of David in this moment. And he says, "This day you have seen with your own eyes how the Lord delivered you into my hands in the cave. Some urged me to kill you, but I spared you. I said, I will not lay my hand on my Lord, because he is the Lord's anointed. See, my father." Remember, Saul had been like a spiritual father for David. "See, my father, look at this piece of your robe in my hand. I cut off the corner of your robe, but I did not kill you. I could have killed you, but I didn't. See that there is nothing in my hand to indicate that I am guilty of wrongdoing or rebellion." So all those lies you've been hearing, Saul, about what you think I was up to, what you think I was doing to you, not true. True story. I was in, what grade was I in? I don't know, maybe 6th grade, something like that. And I was sitting in the back of class, and I think class had just finished. And this kid walked right up to me. He walked right up to me, and as I was standing up getting ready to leave, and he said, "I heard what you've been saying about me." And I was like, "What? What are you talking about?" Before I could say anything else, he punched me right in the face. Now, the good news was he punched like butterfly wings flutter.